he stopped.
to continue what he's doing.
I did it better.
If you couldn't tell by the theme song, we're talking about Ghostbusters. Not the old one, but the new one.
Not
So
the
you gotta do the
sequel.
Fall Out Boy song.
No.
Not free, not free! That was like
not the sequel.
some other thing.
Okay, alright,
The
right.
remake.
The
Welcome,
remake,
hi
the newest
everyone, to our lack of intro. Alright, so this is our
That wasn't intro, that wasn't a lack of intro.
Whatever, it's still shoddy.
We're doing a little bit of a new format with these reviews. We're going to do two separate videos.
Yeah, we're cutting a bit of the fat. So this should be the second
This should
video.
be the second video you're seeing.
Because this is going to be a big, long discussion. We're going to go in depth.
This is our long spoiler review, our discussion video.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our pros and our cons. We're going to go into spoiler territory, so spoiler alert.
Yeah, giant spoiler alert. I'm an English major.
That's a nice graphic that I just made. Fuck, I have to make a graphic now.
Anyway, so we'll be going into an in-depth discussion here for a shorter just recommendation review should be posted before.
It should be out by now.
Assuming we
So before you watch this, if you don't want spoilers, go and watch that video link somewhere. I don't know, it'll be here.
It'll be right over my face.
I have to put a link in. God damn it, I'm
And then
just
it'll
piling
move-
more work on
And then it'll
myself.
move
Look at all
from
that
Dan's
work.
face to my face.
We haven't had
No, it will not move from Dan's
And then
face
it'll
to
do
your
a cool
face.
glitter action.
No.
And then it'll fly
It will absolutely not do any of that.
towards the viewer in a 3D.
It will
sense.
stay exactly
All right.
in one spot, and it will
Guys.
remain there.
guys. Bring it in.
So, Ghostbusters, new remake, all-female cast.
No
of
more dicks.
Ghostbusters.
No more dicks.
Well,
That's the caption.
Chris Hemsworth is like enough dick for everyone.
Yeah, but he's not a Ghostbuster.
Would fuck Chris
Whoa!
Hemsworth.
Whoa!
he's-
There are children watching. I hope not.
He's
At this
the-
point, if there are children watching, parents, what are you doing?
He's the secretary. The secretary in the original Ghostbuster, she's not a Ghostbuster, she's the secretary.
Anyways, okay, so Ghostbusters.
He's not a Ghostbuster either. He's just like
Let's
That's what I'm
alright.
saying.
Let's make this a bit more concise.
Doesn't mean I would.
We'll start with some pros. What we like about this movie? There was a lot of positive things. I
Start with
personally
Jake because I really
like
to hear
this
what
movie.
Jake has to say.
But Jake has lots of. Oh, Jake, don't do that. Jake, that's unprofessional.
Alright, pros?
Yeah, pros. Let's do
Is this going to become a thing where you really like something and he really doesn't like something, or
No,
one of us really doesn't like something?
I've never not liked one yet in the reviews I've been in.
Yeah, he was the middleman. In
That's right. You were the middle man. I was the hated one.
Yeah.
in Warcraft.
We still hate you.
That movie sucks. Anyway,
Pros?
bros, Jake, tell us what
We
you
need
like.
one of us to start.
Alright, no,
Okay.
I'm joking, I'm joking.
Jake,
Alright,
Jake,
pros,
do you need help?
pros for the movie. The movie, it goes, it has like, the setup's fine. It follows a lot of the same stuff as the original Ghostbusters, but it's not a complete copy. It has its own storyline. The characters are original enough, but you can still link them to like the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this person's, clearly this person, and all, all of that kind of
It's
jazz.
recognizable, but not the same.
Yeah, it's not a complete
they
copy.
have similar like areas that they
So-
kind of switch.
Which is as it should be.
Yeah.
For it being a remake, which I typically do not like remakes, this is one of the better ones
Well, yeah. This
because it's not a complete copy and be like, hey, remember that thing we did in the '80s? Hey, we're doing that now.
again.
Like,
Wait, and I think the big reason why I like this because I'm with you. I normally hate reboots because I feel that they're trying to just keep something going beyond what they may need to go.
I hate
Yeah.
bad reboots.
Well, okay, that's
what I'll say.
Well, here's the thing. I think most reboots don't live up to what the potential of what they should be.
yeah,
And
I don't
there
think
are
I've
more
watched
bad.
a good remake.
There's more bad than good at the very least. Even the ones that are
Technically,
okay.
The Godfather's a remake.
Okay.
Is it?
Anyways,
Fuck
Yeah,
me.
that's beside the point.
That's exactly the point. Anyway.
Anyway, okay, so, but the point being, this is actually a good overall movie. It's a fun movie. It's something that you would go in. I've seen this twice so far, and I've enjoyed it both times. I laughed. I was having fun. It's delightfully awkward when it should be awkward. The characters are just silly to watch. It's got a lot of the charm of the old Ghostbusters. I really felt like it had enough goofiness, enough dorkiness, enough silly, outrageous behavior, but then it still had, you know, a little bit of like sort of scares, a little bit of tense moment, and then just the craziness of the concept, because these are people with basically nuclear reactors on their back firing proton beams at ghosts.
Those.
I don't. The engineer said a lot of sciencey words.
Yeah.
And shown that she's very good at
I know what
do
they
that.
said.
They
we'll get to their science dialogue
Okay,
later.
their sciencey.
So I like the new characters.
Okay. I don't hate the new characters. I can appreciate them. They have their moments, but there are also moments where it's just like, ugh. But then, you know, that's a con. You know, I'm doing pros. Okay.
Yeah. No.
What's the? I'm so bad at actresses' names. Who's the subway one? What's her name?
The subway.
With the actress.
The one actress I'm really.
Oh,
I'm horrible at names. Oh God, I'm so sorry.
I didn't want to say the racist one.
The race.
I didn't want to be like, oh, which one's the black one? I
She
didn't
already
want
quit
to
Twitter because she kept getting racist comments.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
know.
God. And
Anyway,
she's not
right.
I forget.
That's
her
another
fucking
thing.
name.
That's another
I forget
thing.
her fucking name, but she my favorite Ghostbuster. I think she was
was
really funny,
really over the top. I
really
like it.
over the top, which I thought I would hate about it because I'm not a fan of over the top stuff.
There's like
but
it starts like you think she's gonna be really stereotypical.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then she like kind of.
some of the stuff that she kind of is like she has her own take on it.
And she has more to her character besides that too.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
all the knowledge.
Because like I was
of
worried, especially from the trailers, that they would just be like, "Oh, we're just gonna cast a sassy black lady." I don't want to.
If you haven't seen the movie, if you only watch like the trailers, for example, a lot of this like her funny moments are her over the top moments. She has way funnier moments that are far from over the top, and they're just funny.
She just has a lot of
I
like.
also
Which
just
is
want to say like the trailers for this movie are terrible.
horrible.
Yeah.
The movie is way better than the trailers.
yeah.
So that's both a pro and a con.
Yeah.
So pro, movie is much better than trailer. Con, the trailer is actually.
The
Yeah,
trailers
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
The trailer does
They
not
make-
show a lot of
Yeah.
what makes
The
this
trailer
movie fun.
has like the worst funny moments.
Yeah.
It's like they're the moments that like aren't funny, and they just threw them in the trailer.
Because, well, here's the thing: the trailer shows all the slapstick, really like just like over the top moments, without necessarily the context of the more subtle humor. It was
Right.
a lot more subtle movie than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
They had those moments where it's just like this off lines. Where just like, did they just?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
it was great.
It had a lot. Well, that's a con, but it had a lot of like what Dan said was like the subtle comedy. There was so much of it, and I was like, that was the parts when I chuckled. It wasn't like it's not the kind of comedy that you would be like, aha, like, you know, busting a gut, laughing. But there's a lot of like subtleties where you're like, oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
Yeah.
That type of thing, which isn't a bad thing because a lot of people are like, oh, this movie's not good if I'm not busting a gut. It's like, no. This movie has a lot of really good subtle moments.
As Jake kind of mentioned earlier, is that there's not a whole lot of like, there's a handful of moments where you just laugh and it's just, you can't help but laugh. But there's more moments where I was just smiling because I was just like, God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it was just silly, it was ridiculous. The one actress that I can remember, mostly because she's become a bit of a favorite of mine, Kate McKinnon, who plays Holtzman. She's the crazy engineer.
I like her.
I love her.
She's a close second. She might be tied. She's
every moment she's on screen is nothing.
When
but
she pulls out those two
absolute
pistols at the end and just licks one of them. I was like, that's awesome.
I want that. I want just that moment at the very end with the original theme blaring in the background, and she's literally just kicking ghost ass, whipping things up. It was
That
so
whole,
cool.
like,
it's like 10 seconds of just awesome.
That whole like ending sequence I think was cool with all of them kicking ass.
Oh yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Another part I would have it
Fight choreography in Ghostbusters
is that they kind of had their own take on the technology and the new stuff that they added, all the new guns, the new gadget stuff. A lot of them were really cool.
That's another really good one.
Another thing was like they also didn't carbon copy the what the fuck's the backpacks.
Proton packs.
Thank you.
Packs.
It was like okay, yeah, it's like, you know, it's an homage to it, but it wasn't. They had their own design to it.
Yeah,
it
was obvious. The same overall thing was there, but it wasn't it wasn't an exact copy.
Yeah.
They expanded on the gear. They talked a lot more about what, you know, the gear does. They had those test runs and stuff, which the Ghostbusters actually never did, if I can remember the right in the first movie.
They didn't really. They only had the backpacks, really.
They talked about.
Well, no, but they never really had
I
like.
don't think
They never really like
test
showed like a go out.
I
And
think what
test
they
the
literally
character.
did was. No, it was like whenever they did the hotel scene in the
Yeah.
original, they were just in the elevator, just the elevator talking about, oh, you tested these things, right? It's like,
Yeah, that's fine. Just don't
don't
do
cross the
anything.
stranger. You know, we're all
Don't
gonna
cross the
die.
street. That's the other thing. Like, I would have had a serious problem if they did the "don't cross the streams" thing again.
And then they
Yeah.
cross the streams to win.
Because it's like
There are more.
you've done that once, and it's one of the most iconic things like in film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do it again, I might hurt you.
Yeah, it's one thing to have an homage.
It's
but
another
it's
thing
It doesn't
copy
need to be
the
copy.
solution
And that's the
to the
thing.
problem
This
like in
movie
the other
is
movie.
a lot of homages.
There's a lot of homages, a lot of
everyone
throwbacks.
but Rick Moranis and sadly Harold Ramis for obvious reasons made a cameo. And they even got Harold Ramis as a bus, which you guys missed. But
I missed it. I wish I would have seen it.
but so all the Ghostbusters are in there, one way, shape, or form, and as well as Sigourney Weaver
and
the secretary, which I can never remember that.
Not Hemsworth, the other one.
Most of
the old secretary. So they had all these homages. They had a lot of like callbacks to the original Ghostbusters movie, like the painting with the evil ghost lady on it was like a kind of a callback to the painting.
You know what? Even I liked how they did a reference to the old firehouse, but they didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
They
and they're like,
that
oh, we're
for
gonna go on
sequel.
top of a Chinese restaurant instead because
Yeah.
we can't
Which
afford
was
the
funny.
we can't afford the
Which
firehouse.
actually
I
makes
was like, that
sense.
was funny.
Yeah.
Because, and I
I'm
liked
sitting
it.
there like, if you actually get this firehouse, I might.
Yeah.
Because they had to mortgage
And
Dan
that-
Aykroyd's house in his
original,
grandfather's house. So it was like they had to build with it. They didn't do that at all. They just said, "Oh, that's too expensive." No.
Yeah, and
which
like,
is a nice touch.
And it's one of those things because like, it's this movie where like, you have all these homages and you have all these things, but it's never like, we're gonna do the same thing as this movie.
Yeah,
it's all new stuff, and it's all
they
these
have
new
the ghost
twists,
battle.
and
They
I'm
have
like,
the giant like pseudo Stay Puft battle, but it's not the exact
even the
same
Stay
thing.
Puft guy has a cameo.
Well, yeah, the Stay Puft guys. The Stay Puft guys a delightful cameo where they just fall on top of
And
it
it's-
switch them.
And it's one of these. It's one of those things that I like. Because I don't hate reboots, but I hate when reboots do the same thing as the original movie and don't do it as well. This movie's like, we can't do what the old Ghostbusters did, so we're going to be different and
We're going to honor them and acknowledge them.
We're going to honor and acknowledge the original.
Take the same concept.
And then do new stuff, which is what you need to do with the reboot.
Exactly, and then this is
Acknowledge that
actually-
the first exist, and then move forward.
This is, I think, a great example of how to do reboots.
Yes.
Like, any filmmakers out there that's actually watching this, why? No, please stay. Anyways, sorry,
Shooing our audience away.
Sorry.
goddammit.
Anyways, okay, so any filmmakers that would actually, look at this. Look,
If
you
you
were
want to
doing a
remake
reboot-
The Brave Little Toaster, go watch Ghostbusters.
That's a weird statement.
That's
but
a
yeah,
oddly
it's a really
specific thing to
weird.
do.
I don't know why that popped into my
If
head.
you bring back a franchise, make sure you bring back the franchise, but you don't have to recopy the franchise. We have the Ghostbusters, we have the 1984 movie, we have Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
And,
it was almost like they
others.
whenever they were making
Harold Ramis and
it's almost like whenever they were remaking the movie, they're like, what do the Ghostbusters? What are the Ghostbusters? Whenever you think of them, what is that? And they're like, okay, you have 3 to 4 people in the janitor jumpsuits with the backpacks on. It's like we need to have that, and they have to have a hearse.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all they copied. I mean, they ended up in the firehouse, but they didn't. They got there in a different way.
That was
Not
almost
during
an
the
after.
movie,
That's after
that was
the
like an
movie.
after credits.
That was an
thing. They got
epilogue
that
thing,
far.
which
So,
is a nice touch.
It's
It
like
sets
they
up-
gave the Ghostbusters just enough of what they needed to be like, these guys feel like the Ghostbusters.
You can look at them and immediately see, that is obviously the Ghostbusters. They have the symbol, they have the proton packs, and the delightful.
And anybody
effects.
who's upset with the fact that they're women, shut the fuck up, please.
Okay, yes. There was a lot of talk of that. I really start to wonder, how much that really was a lot, people actually being legitimately upset, or people just making noise for the sake of making noise. I don't know.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was whenever, because that was all whenever the trailers came out. Now that the movie came out, I think they got it a little bit more hushed. I'm sure people still make that
even
complaint.
before the trailers, when it was announced, people were like, "Oh
people
my
were like,
god, it's
no,
horrible."
yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
It started dying on a little bit with the trailers, and people were just talking about how the trailer sucks.
Yeah.
So that it became at least reasonable arguments because the trailer was not great.
Yeah.
But then the cast, I think, did a fantastic job, and any negativity to them should be directed to their performances. You can, if you didn't like the performance, that's fine. I can certainly see that there was a lot of cheesy moments.
Don't just be like, they're girlfriend, Ghostbusters are boys.
Well, it's actually, what's funny, they had one line that actually referenced the whole people on YouTube being angry at them.
Yeah.
The whole, like,
yeah,
what are these bitches doing hunting ghosts? And it's like,
ghosts.
that's delightful. They did a lot of that thing where they did look
I almost
at
feel like that was an actual YouTube comment
that's probably,
on the trailer.
That's probably an
Just
actual.
put it in the movie.
Yeah, but they did a lot of like talking about what would the Ghostbusters really be like in the modern day era. They used a lot of things like YouTube and cell phones, like a lot more stuff that they didn't have in the 80s to update them without making them feel like.
And I'm glad they didn't do that whole like it's a reboot but also a sequel kind of deal where it's 30 years later and the Ghostbusters happened and everybody forget like. Because that's what it looked like in the first trailer.
The first trailer literally opens by
announcing like 30 years ago 4 people fought ghosts in New York, and I'm like, don't do that.
And I was actually, that's what I thought, and I kind of wanted them to like be a passing down the torch movie. But having seen this movie now, I'm glad they didn't because that doesn't work. Because a lot of the plot for this one and a lot of the plot for the last one did have one big thing in common, in that they were looked at as frauds. That was the idea that no one believed them, which is a good point because it's a crazy thing to happen.
Yeah, if it happened 30 years ago, then they wouldn't believe it.
I mean, come on, the 80s didn't have a lot of the recording evidence, but they still had videotape. Like, was there no news teams fighting when they fought Zool? Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, so it was nice that they did that. They detached themselves from the first movie without forgetting the first. Right. So we've talked about that like 17 times now. What other pros really? Sorry, I keep.
We have to talk about the best part of this movie.
Say it,
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. Hats off to this guy. He basically took all the dorkiness of Thor and just made that the whole thing.
His like weird Thor smile that he has whenever he like does something impressive and he knows it.
Yeah, he's so happy about himself.
The entire movie, he's just like that.
And there's actually been a lot of complaints about this thing, which are usually get plenty of rebuttals saying, yeah, that's the joke. Because people are saying this is horribly sexist. The one major male character is basically used as a sex object. Wow, that's never been the flip of the like. It's not just the female cast. That's the flip. The secretary, which is now just eye candy. The original was not, but I mean, so many films have had females in them as either just a token to show that we've got diversity, or to literally be eye candy. Like, how many trailers have you seen where it's like, oh man, that woman is in her underwear. Must go see that movie because it's
the Megan Fox over the car door thing.
So many of those things that happens so often. This time it was Chris Hemsworth. And on top of that,
it's a statement and a joke.
Yeah,
wrapped
exactly.
into one character.
In one big thing. They did it very well because he's still very funny. He is so dumb.
He's so dumb that it hurts, but it's also awesome.
It is as much a parody of itself.
Yeah.
Like, by existing. Like, he doesn't even understand the phone's ringing beside him. He thinks it's the one in the aquarium and he can't get it because it's in the aquarium. He's like, are you serious?
You guys know aquariums are just submarines for fish.
He has some fantastic lines too. It's like no. I don't have a cat. I have a dog. His name's my cat. My cat. Actually, his full name's Michael Hat. What?
He listens to my mom. It's like, what?
That is so. It was delightfully stupid. It was one of the best. I do admit that was one of the best parts of the movie, just because I got the statement like right away, and it gave me something more. It wasn't just in your face like women get mistreated in films. No, it was like, yeah, women get mistreated in films. Now see this hilarious parody, and that's why I love like any kind of comedy that does its job well can make both a good statement about the world and make you laugh. And they did that with Chris Hemsworth in this movie. So props to them for that, and props to Chris Hemsworth for being he's just adorably idiotic. It's funny.
I don't blame them though for hiring him.
I mean, he's literally a god.
Beautiful. Anyway,
well, he was also their only applicant. That was
Oh yeah. I mean, he's the only one that showed up.
I'm trying to think for the pros.
So yeah, I mean, specifically, we covered the Ghostbusters specifically. A lot of what makes this movie, I think, is just okay. A few of the things that I'm just as small bits. I really liked some of the tie-ins near the end. Like the last fight, as was kind of mentioned, was amazing. But what really did it for me was when they finally did the bigger homage to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That's hard to say fast. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Instead of just, he appeared earlier, but the real homage is that the villain, who's this like super ghost guy, turns into the freaking logo for the Ghostbusters. And then when he becomes a bit more like solid and corporeal, he's giant, like colossal, and that's what wrecks New York City. And I was like, that's fantastic. That was amazing. The logo fights them. I mean, just like the logo never did anything in the movie because it was just a thing. Someone just designed it and it was done. The logo felt a lot more into the movie to the point where it literally became a part of the movie.
I like it to a point, but then there are things about it that I'm like...
Fair enough. I was just super tickled by that, mostly because it was a setup. I understand
I can say that one thing that I really liked about the logo is the way that they discovered it.
Oh yeah, it was just some random graffiti.
Some random graffiti artist. That was really cool.
They're like, could you describe the ghost? And he starts like painting it on the wall.
What are you doing? Like,
it's like, no, I don't want you ghosts. Okay, no ghosts allowed. And
the way the cinematography of that thing was great because they didn't show what he was painting, but like everybody knew.
As soon as he did the no ghosts, I'm just like,
it was just nice for the
that's
audience.
beautiful.
Because like 2 scenes before that, they were talking about trying to find a logo.
Yeah,
and
it was a great setup.
Yeah.
For the even when at the final battle with him turning into the logo, I agree with Connor. I would say that for the most part, like it ended up being likable, but there are a couple things I don't like about it. For example, like there's a part where it looks like a cartoon. It's like animated, and I'm just like, it took me out of it. It was only like for 2 seconds, but still I'm like, that didn't need to be there.
It was weird, but then again.
However, the way that they explained it,
it was like for 2 seconds I was like, am I watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yeah.
Actually, you were.
But for the rest of it,
I love that movie.
I actually heard that right at the end. I heard a complaint. It was a complaint that right at the end that they were gonna fight the logo, and then like before you even seen the movie, I was like, oh man, really? And then after watching it, like they explained it through dialogue when the villain's like, oh, like which form would you have me take? And then they jokingly say something easy and like easy to beat, something nice and cuddly, and he's like, oh, how about this? Turns into the logo, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
And they have him like in a diner, like drawing the logo too, with like weird teeth. So it's like it's even.
They had foreshadowing. They had set up. It was on the
They explained it well, and it made sense for the story.
It was solid.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that goes about it. I think we have a good amount of pros. I do like it. So, but this isn't a perfect movie, as pretty much nothing is. No. So cons. Who wants to start us off?
I shouldn't go first.
since Jake went first, you should go first.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, so the con that I found this is a weird con, but I noticed the length of the movie a bit more. In the overall, like it didn't feel like it totally dragged because there was no like one scene that I'm just like, God, I hate the scene. But overall, I feel like there was a lot in this movie, and they did cover a lot.
There are scenes they probably could have cut,
but they probably could have trimmed it up a bit more to make it a bit more compact and punchy. It did kind of lose a bit of it. I never got to the point where I'm just like, oh my God, will this movie ever end? Yeah. Though this recent screening, I'm just like, oh my God, I really need to pee. But that's beside the point.
That could have had some influence.
I did also have to pee for like an hour. But like,
yeah, that's beside the point. But so the movie did feel like it just was. I noticed the length, and I don't know if I really want to put it as a joke con, but
like they linger after a joke for a little too long.
Oh yes.
There's several scenes that's I guess another bit like. And that's definitely adds to that. Is that there's several scenes where they just do where the two main characters. And
I don't mean to take you off on your track, Dan. No, for a second. But whatever, go just on the jokes real quick on the jokes. So a lot of the jokes that they did, and they were like, oh man, I don't know if they were like, oh, it's not funny enough, or it was a lot of the, I guess some of the wordplay was just like it just wasn't that funny.
There was a few times,
and. I guess they tried to fix it by like, oh, let's just make it an awkward situation with nobody talking for like a couple seconds. And like it's like just rewrite the joke. There were a couple moments where I was like, oh, that's just stale, not.
Well, I think what the big stale part for me, as much as I say the two main characters. I'm trying to remember their actual names. There was Aaron and Abby.
Aaron and Abby.
Aaron and Abby.
Yeah. Aaron and Abby. There you go.
So Aaron and Abby, the two main characters, Melissa McCarthy and the other woman. I'm so bad at actors now. I feel so bad every time.
Kristen Wiig.
Thank you, Kirsten.
The
So anyway,
only one I remember.
they have several points in the movie. Like they just go back and forth. They have this thing where like they start arguing back and forth about something simple. Like when they were in the mayor's office, they argued about the cat in the bag thing. They just went back and forth. And it wasn't necessarily like a joke in and of itself. The joke was that this is a commonly said phrase, or it's something that doesn't necessarily need to be explained. But they're going to explain it because they're going back and forth. Like the cat out of the bag.
Some of their back and forths are like awkward, but like they're intentionally awkward.
I mean, I know they're being intentionally awkward, but I feel that they didn't quite pull that off very well.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like a person thing, because I don't like intentionally awkward things. I think they're way too forced.
Well,
but that could just be me.
They usually are meant. I mean, that's the thing. They're meant to feel forced.
But because of that, for me, I
like
find it
awkward.
funny.
I like awkward comedy.
I do too.
Sparingly.
Yeah, I do too. But when it's forced like that, it's like, it's just like there are some that there's a lot of awkward comedy that flows really well, and that's what makes it really good.
And then there's some where it's just like you're doing it because you're doing it.
Yeah, you're doing it to make it awkward.
Yeah.
And it's just like stop. Like, you know.
So I would say it's probably 50-50 as far as like comedy goes. I think half the jokes are really good, and then half the jokes are just like move on.
The funniest jokes are the ones that will make you laugh out loud, and they're the subtle ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're the ones.
They're the ones where like Tom Hanks shows up and is like
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
That was
Bill
Dan
Murray.
Aykroyd.
What are you talking about?
Or are you talking about Bill Murray for?
You said Tom Hanks.
Why the fuck? Okay.
Which one?
There was like
the street cred.
There was like 4 commercials with Tom Hanks in it before the movie.
Yeah.
And
that is true.
Like, Bill Murray and
like
Tom
3
Hanks.
movies coming out. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Like Tom Hanks and Bill Murray, they look alike.
Don't say that. They
look similar.
They look nothing.
They look similar. I confuse them a lot.
Get out. Anyways, okay.
They look similar.
All right, so
they're balding fat white guys. What do you want me to say?
All right. As far like there were not all cameos were equal. The secretary was great.
I was thinking
Dan Aykroyd I think was great. Bill Murray was a bit. I think Bill Murray just lasted a bit too long because he was supposed to be a ghost debunker.
Yeah.
But the thing is just like the
first
when he shows up in the second scene, it's like
I think it's just if they had just the one scene where it was Bill Murray he was on the TV and he says, "Is this real?" Hell no. And that was
funny. Then he comes back.
Then he comes in and they have this confrontation. Like I get why it is story wise, I guess. Like because that leads to the.
If it was a situation where like because later on, Melissa McCarthy gets possessed by the main villain. Mm-hmm. If she had gotten possessed by Bill Murray at that point, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense because he died there. So now she's possessed by Bill Murray, and that would have been cool, but it's not.
Funny enough, that possession was kind of an okay scene. Definitely one of the weaker scenes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But more importantly, I realized that right now, there was actually that literally foiled the villain's plans, because if he had not. Like, if he had not gone, there was no point for him to go to the Ghostbusters. There was thousands of people resting in New York, much of them closer to the place where he died, where he would have been. So why did he go all the way to the Ghostbusters place to get a Ghostbuster and then go all the way back? It literally tipped the Ghostbusters off before he even launched the machine.
I mean, even then though,
I mean, they got Chris Hemsworth involved, but
the other you know the actress's name,
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig. She figured out about it.
Yeah.
Which is another problem I have with that scene. Why is she not with the other Ghostbusters?
She was in her own place.
It wasn't when did she had her own place. I thought she was.
Well, she was a. Why was she, I mean?
Yeah,
like they were all pretty.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Like they get arrested.
Yeah.
And then she's just like in a hotel room.
She's in a hotel room or something.
Back at their Chinese
and it's
restaurant.
not explained. Like we don't know where the fuck she lives. We never
don't know
saw
why
her.
she's there.
So she's just in a bed, and we're like, where are you?
We never see her apartment, but she's
just reading the book.
She was a professor at Columbia, which is a relatively I know
she got.
But it's not like you suddenly just lose all the money. She seemed like.
I mean, I'm assuming if you're spending your money on nuclear reactors, it would go away for you.
She didn't buy a single nuclear.
You don't know that for sure.
It was just strange explaining.
Those are all like freaking.
They did steal a bunch of stuff though too. So.
It was just strange because we haven't seen any of the main characters where they live.
They probably
it was just weird.
They probably could have done more with that. I mean, I'm fine with not necessarily seeing where they live, but they probably could have tied that a bit more to make it so that her revelation was actually their revelation.
It just seemed out of place for how far we were in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's jarring for them to get arrested and then all of a sudden she's in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Because that was literally the scene before.
It was a fake arrest.
Because I'm okay with her
right.
being by herself, because she has the book, she's reading through it, and she's like, oh shit, I gotta go tell the mayor. I guess the only problem I have with that is like, why didn't she go to the Ghostbusters first? And be like, oh, holy shit, guys, this isn't over.
Yeah, like,
you know?
why did she go to the mayor, who she doesn't trust?
Yeah.
As it is.
Well, the mayor's supposed to be on her side.
I don't know. The only
She was, like, the whole point of her is that she doesn't trust the mayor, and Abby is like, we need to work with the mayor.
However,
and that conflict
yeah,
exists,
it
so why
could've
would she, the person who doesn't trust the mayor, go to the mayor?
It could have been a character thing, too, because, like, they tried to make her a rather selfish character. At least that's how she came off to me.
Okay.
She's like, because they're like, you know, oh, we're Ghostbusters, we're gonna stick together, and she's like, okay, and then last second, like, nah, I don't trust this. Like I want to do it my way. She did that whenever she released the ghost to show Bill Murray.
Yeah, that's true. So
She's like, oh yeah, you're right. Ah, never mind, and just like let the ghost go.
Because she's the one that was bullied in high school
Right.
for it.
It's understandable, but it wasn't focused on enough to be
Yeah.
like, we understand this character.
That definitely could have been a lot stronger because it was there, the idea was there, and they did capitalize on it to some degree, like with the Bill Murray scene. That
Yeah.
she did that because
Also,
of that.
and because of that,
What a
the
good
scene that we jumped to when she explains her whole backstory with like, oh, I was 8, it felt forced and too serious.
the backstory.
For whatever
She's like, I
whatever
was
the next
8
door
when the
neighbor or my next door neighbor
Oh.
lady died.
That was
That
an
was-
intense origin.
It was forced.
like
It felt really forced for me
neighbor
for the tone of the
It
movie.
was also
I guess
kind
so.
of a, like, I don't want to say, like, cliche, but, like,
Well, here's the thing here, and I'll also touch on this.
it's kind of like every 8-year-old has a story like that.
Well, of course. I mean, that's what happens, right? You have to go through the neighbor stands over your bed every night, right, guys?
What? I never had that.
Oh.
I mean, like, it's like a ghost trope for the ghost.
Yeah, no,
standing at the
that's
foot of your bed,
definitely
is what I'm
that.
getting
It's,
at.
but here's the thing. I mean, I wouldn't put that as the only thing because there were a lot of tropes in this movie.
Yeah.
And I almost want to put that as a negative. I'm gonna put it. I put it more as a tentative negative because, to be honest, it kind of added to the corniness. The Ghostbusters already, like, they have that corny charm to them. That's what makes them so much fun. Is because Egon is the nerd, so Holtzman is the kind of crazy nerd. That idea, you know, there is the one who doesn't necessarily believe in this. You know, Bill Murray's character was kind of the skeptic, you know, asshole, while Erin was less of an asshole, but she had different moments. She had different qualities.
Yeah,
she was
a different
selfish.
character. Yeah,
She was a different character, but at least there was the similarities there.
There were
So
similarities.
all of them have this kind of like
What
to
are,
a small
what are,
degree
what are all the
tropiness.
names of the original Ghostbusters? I don't remember. It's been a while. It's
Venkman?
Egon, Venkman.
Egon, Venkman,
Because you said Egon, and then I was like, wait a minute. Aaron is spelled with an E. Is that supposed to be a thing?
because Holtzman's Egon.
Egon,
Right.
Venkman.
I thought like maybe they had done something that I
Right,
didn't
we got
realize.
half-
like their
we
names
got
were
half.
different.
I know, and this is so bad. I'm sorry. I
anyway.
have horrible name.
That's a big.
I'll get
Twinkie,
back to you.
And that's a big Twinkie, and two's the third or fourth one.
Who's a big twink?
That's a big. That's a big Twinkie.
Ray. Ray
Ray.
was Dan Aykroyd's character, and because I'm trying to remember the lines, it's the only way I can remember them.
That's a big Twinkie.
But then you.
That's where I came from. That.
But then we have the last guy who I'm forgetting his last name, but it's his.
I don't fucking remember.
I have
It's been-
shamed
it's
myself.
Been too long.
It's been a while.
Whatever.
It's been
Anyway,
too long.
Other
moving on.
cons. I have one. The villain.
Yep. Lord. Okay, so
He sucks.
I
mean, is the plainest way I can put it.
I enjoyed bits of the villain. I liked his plan, how he was going to like make himself like king of the ghosts kind of thing. I just didn't really like exactly how it was executed and explained.
He's
And then on top, but the
he's that character who's just like, I hate life and I want to destroy
But the biggest
world.
problem is that he's literally
Twirly
the bull-
mustache.
He's literally the bullied kid from high school that is just remains the weirdo for the entire time and is thus a villain. And that trope is actually the
He's
one
like-
that I hate the most.
He's the most obvious suspect and he's the one. Like, I hate that.
The funny thing is, he
Like,
reveals himself as the villain.
He reveals himself so early.
Yeah, super early.
It's like,
That's the only reason
like-
they know him. He literally walks up to Patty and says,
and is like, "Hey, I'm evil. Let me go down the hallway."
He's like, you know,
and like I'm sitting there like, "That's a red herring. He's not the evil." And then it's like, "No, he is the evil." And it's like, really? You couldn't have like a twist or something where like he just was weird and
it
there
was
was actually
Chris Hemsworth,
or it was actually Chris Hemsworth. Like
that'd actually be an awesome twist.
I was just like, why would you? You had a perfect opportunity for suspense and you just didn't do it.
Yeah, for me it was like every time you watch him, you're like, all right, who's this guy? What's he doing? Okay, and then he says some ominous shit, and you're like, all right.
Ding ding.
Okay.
He tries to be like this weird like.
He's like, you're all gonna pay. You know, classic villain line. And you're
he's like,
okay, I get
build
it.
the vortex.
All right, I get it.
He's literally
bullshit.
chanting his plan.
He's
in
like
a
chanting
diner.
his plan in his dining room as he's drawing the evil Ghostbuster. So and I'm like.
Yeah. And then they even jam it down your throat by background because like he's like sitting in the hotel room and people are like, hey, freak show, hey, weird dude, and it's like, all right, we get it.
Everyone,
He's the bad guy. Like, what the fuck?
and then on top of that, everyone antagonizes him. They like prove his point just going throughout the movie. I think it could have been a lot more subtle. I think it could have been a lot more interesting, or at the very least, they could have done a little more twist that he wasn't the villain and he's just this weird guy. What I do
He's like the weird guy who in every other movie isn't the bad guy, and they just made him the bad guy.
Because everyone's trying to do the twist. I guess that's a twist. I don't know. No, anyways.
But it sucks.
It's a shitty
twist.
I'm gonna toss in a little beacon of pro, just because I probably should have done it. But the real beef of the villain is that it's a con. But beacon of pro is that I did like his setup, and it kind of a genius thing is that the whole no one pays attention to the lowly janitor kind of deal. So the janitor he has the keys to everything, he has access to everything. So he's gonna set up. That at least was cool. I wish they had capitalized on
Yeah,
that.
but they did that in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, they do that in several movies.
Do it in
I
all
still
of the
like
movies.
that.
They do it all the time.
It's a trope. I like the trope. I'll admit to that. Just saying.
I
But
think
no,
one thing that
it was weak.
I don't like, it's pretty much a direct line to the original movie because in the original Ghostbusters, there's the opening scene where you're just like, okay, what's going on? It's just to show you that there's ghosts. You know,
Yeah.
Same thing with this one. Same thing. We're in a random house. This particular house and thing does. I thought it was a setup for the villain when I first watched the movie.
Yeah, I actually thought that the woman was going to be the villain.
They did so much backstory on this girl. It was like it was like this lady.
The Aldrich Mansion.
She's the one. She's like the only ghost that gets.
And
that
then you
much
see, and
attention.
then he goes into the basement, and there's like some demonic shit happening, and I'm like,
The
oh, that's
floor
cool
is
as
cracking
fuck.
open. There's green shit coming out.
So I originally thought, as I was watching the movie, that the ghost of that girl took over the janitor dude, possessed him,
Oh,
and that's what I thought was gonna happen. And then they're just like,
And
oh
then
no, it's just some creepy fucker.
It was her plan. Oh,
Yeah.
See, that would have been interesting because at the very she was an awesome
because they
setup.
already explained that she
potential
was
villain.
evil because she stabbed 4 people and then they threw her in the basement for her whole life. I'm like, that is the reason to hate humanity.
Yeah,
instead of give it to some rando janitor who has fucking like jagged things and he's like, rock on, I fucking hate rebels, and like I don't fucking know. But he's like, he's just
so.
I hate him.
The eloquent villain.
He's a very
They had
bad
the villain
guy.
in the opening scene and they didn't use her. And she was a ghost.
And she's
And
great.
like her backstory is awesome.
Yeah.
Backstory
it's
is
really
awesome.
cool.
She's a
And they
reference to
only use
Vigo.
her in that beginning scene, and then she pops up once again in the final
Yeah.
fight, and it's like.
It's like you had her.
She get like
She
a
is
bit
the
of a
most
fight.
interesting ghost that they have. The other one's just a fucking pterodactyl for no reason. Like, why are we all of a sudden in the Scooby-Doo movie with a pterodactyl? Why are we
He
there?
wasn't a pterodactyl, Connor.
He looked.
It was like a
No,
gar-
his design was
like-
so similar
he was
to
like
the
a
pterodactyl
gargoyle.
ghost from
His
fucking
design,
Monsters
I think, was
Unleashed.
supposed to be a gargoyle, like as in perched on top of.
Because he had like a
many-
singing
Right,
face.
but you compare that thing to the pterodactyl ghost from Scooby-Doo Monsters
I
Unleashed.
try not to actually
They're
look
very
at.
similar.
I think you just think that because he grabbed her with
They're
with
both
the legs.
big glowing green things with wings and fucking.
Everything
pointy
in the movie
beaks.
was either a big green glowing thing or a big blue glowing
But this one
thing.
specifically had wings and looked like a fucking bat, and it was a pterodactyl.
This is fun.
I don't know what to tell you.
You can tell me that
You know what,
the
maybe
girl
I should
is
be
fast
agreeing
and
with you
secure.
because I don't like the movie as much as the
I
two of
think
you.
you should.
Maybe I should be like,
Why are you
right.
defending the movie you don't like, Jake?
Well, because I don't like other parts.
I'll
of the
admit,
movie.
I didn't. The first time around, I didn't really question the gargoyle because I thought they were just being unique with their design. But yeah, questioning is the fact that if this was like an interdimensional monster, sure. But because they're focused on the fact that these are ghosts,
They even call it a ghost. At
Yeah,
one point.
I don't know.
It's like
the only
a ghost of what?
the only explanation I can
What
think of.
is
The
that?
only explanation I can think of is because ghosts can do all these other weird things and make all these other weird things happen, like Chris Hemsworth does Rowan does at the end.
Right.
I'm almost thinking that the ghost chose to be like a bestial monster because he thought it would scare
Maybe
him.
they were
Then
trying
give
to
us
show
a line about that and tell us.
That could have been expanded. I'll completely agree with that. That's
It
the
just
only,
takes
that's the
a
only
line. This ghost took the form of this thing to scare people. That's all it takes.
That actually would have been a kind of an interesting back and forth. Like, why is it not human? It's like, maybe it just likes to scare people.
Maybe they couldn't explain it because we know that they're going to make another movie.
Director's
and maybe they're like, oh, like clearly people don't know more about this. Like, you know, there's clearly more things than people understand. I don't know. Because maybe that wasn't a ghost. Maybe it just looked like a ghost, and they're like, maybe it's a ghost. But it wasn't a ghost. It was like a demon
whatever.
or something.
It was at the very least.
Whatever it is, I'm trying to very loosely explain it. And
well,
it could have been explained.
My hat off to you, sir. At the very least, I think it's one of those things that they could have easily explained it in 7 different ways.
Yes.
They just didn't.
And that brings me to my next con. They don't explain a lot of shit.
Yeah.
No.
The few things they do explain, they do in a language that you can't understand.
They explain everything. But here's how they explain everything.
Do it, Jake.
Oh, the doodad with the flip-flop is gonna do that, and it's gonna magically put the ghost in the flip-bobble. And that's gonna make everything go round.
There's a lot of sciencey words.
And
they use a
it's
lot
like,
of big sciencey words that ultimately don't mean
because
anything.
they say that, and then the other person says like another thing that you don't understand, and then they're like, okay, cool.
There are
we're
entire scenes with back and forths that you just don't get anything out of
Yeah,
if you're not a rocket scientist.
Half of Holtzman's lines, I think, actually are just technobabble. And you know, I'm actually curious. I kind of want to go
But that fits
back.
her character. I like that she says that shit because she's crazy.
Well, and that's like her purpose in the story.
But like
is
the
to-
thing with the original Ghostbusters, they still simplified the things that were said because Bill Murray didn't understand.
Because by making the
And
character,
they had that character of
Yeah.
Patty that they should have been explaining to, but they just didn't.
she did that like once.
Like one time.
It's like, you know, like, whereas like you explain that and then she like half explained. But no, that's a very good point because I think with the Bill Murray setup in the original movie, they did a lot more of like English please.
Yeah.
Which is, but the reason why
Maybe they didn't
I'm
want
kind
to
of
do
glad
it
they
too
didn't want to do
much,
that because that whole English please thing with the nerds saying things we can't understand, let's English please. It was kind of refreshing to see the characters just go with it.
But
I just wish I had more answers about what the fuck is happening.
They could have put a completely English explanation for
like how does this device make ghosts happen more, or why is the villain who is now a ghost able to control living people?
All they had to say,
and all of the ghosts,
all they had to say is some bullshit. Is like
and control Chris
all they had to
Hemsworth
say is
all at the same time.
all they had to say is like ghosts give off this certain like electrical like current, but it's some kind of paranormal electrical thing, and like the protons that we use in this proton thing like affected in such a way that it entraps it, or something like that.
Neutralizing agent.
But then they just used a bunch of 4-syllable words that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and that's why it works. And you're like, you didn't say that wasn't.
I'm curious. I kind of want to go back and just look at all the words because I did recognize that there are some words that are like legitimate scientists. Or like ionization is a thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure they're actual
there
things.
was there. I'm just.
It's just you have to be a rocket scientist to get what they're talking about.
I'm curious if like the concepts they were talking about were actual.
I didn't like it. Like, it's just.
But as far as like a moviegoer, I wouldn't expect anyone to actually like be able to say, "Oh yeah, of course."
If I have to Google your plot's not good.
Well,
and I'm not saying like the plot's not good. I'm just saying
plot, but
that was a blanket statement that was not what I meant to say.
In this movie, they do a lot of science mumbo jumbo to explain things.
Their exposition for that is they're just going to say some science words and then we're supposed to accept that.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you do accept it, it's kind of cool to see the characters just kind of go with it because they get excited about it, and it's kind of cool seeing someone getting like really excited about the sciencey stuff. Because personally, as someone who does get kind of excited about sciencey stuff, that doesn't happen very often in movies because most often there's the nerd in the group and they're off to the side. This is literally a group of nerds. Even Patty was like enough of. She went with it enough that she didn't feel like they weren't saying, "Oh yes, the nerd knows things. They can do stuff just off to the side."
But answer me this: how does Roland become a two-dimensional animated Ghostbuster symbol and then get bigger and destroy a building?
I'm not defending that. I'm not defending the fact that it wasn't that they
How
didn't
is
answer.
Chris Hemsworth able to control a crowd of people and have a dance party while the credits are rolling?
Possession.
That had nothing to do with ghosts. That was just Chris Hemsworth. They love Chris Hemsworth.
He just rolled really high charisma, right?
Well, he's Chris Hemsworth. He's got like a fucking.
He's got like plus 40 charisma.
They kind of explained it, but they didn't explain how it worked, right?
Yeah.
Because they
It's
explained that, like, what were those lines called? They had a name for them.
Ley lines.
The
Ley lines, yeah.
They
And
did
they're
ley
like,
lines,
oh,
they did
like
discussion.
this is where they're like they didn't even like try and measure it. They're like, oh, it's just like where a bunch of paranormal energy or whatever the fuck they called it.
Yeah,
and they're like, they could have been like, oh, this amps the. Well, I guess they did say it amps the ghost power, but they didn't go into the
But then why
specifics
is it
of what it did.
specifically the one villain that gets control over everything else?
Because I think that's what is like. I mean, it's entire. It's I completely
I
agree
have
with
no
you.
idea.
If they give it a lot of explanation, my thinking on it is that his device allowed him to channel his spirit as like the sole conduit of all those spirits breaking out. He was the reason.
There should have been a line explaining.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'm going to that. I was like, there should be more explanation. The sciencey mumbo jumbo, while it was kind of annoying to some degree, was nice to see. I think if they had that in addition to the actual exposition.
The exposition problems that annoy me the most are the ones that literally could have been done in a single line.
Yeah.
Like there's so much stuff that they could have just said something and like we would get it.
Yeah, like
But
the ghost
because
is
they don't
trying to
say
scare
anything.
people. That's why it's a gargoyle. Rowan had, connected the ley lines directly into his body through the coil things.
Right.
Like if they found his blueprints of that instead of just his scribblings in the book,
Yeah.
then that would
Most
be.
of them were drawings.
Well, yeah, they were.
It's just like, what is that?
It's
Come
like
on.
he loved your book. He's going to draw his murder sprees over them. But whatever.
Yeah.
No, okay, but so like,
all
if they
you
found
had
his
to do-
blueprints,
yeah.
they saw like, oh, those things. They aren't just little like electrical things. They're conduits to the source power, and they did that.
All they had
That
to do
type of
to
thing.
explain it was to be, instead of just have pictures in the book, just write a bunch of sciencey shit, and then she takes it to the mayor and she goes, oh, this means this, and a line of dialogue, like Connor said.
It's one line.
That's it. But instead
All
they
you
decided
need.
to put a picture book inside this chapter book. That's all. That's what they did.
He's an emotionally stable 12-year-old.
He's emotionally stable.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's fine.
Any
That
more
was-
massive cons, Jake?
We didn't even get to me.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking you.
The villain thing. Yeah, and I already kind of gave my 2 cents because you had an amazing villain at the beginning that you didn't use at all. What the fuck was that? And then a lot of the jokes I was just like, oh, lowbrow comedy. I don't hate lowbrow comedy, but when you use it over and over and over and over, it's like Jesus. Fart joke, burp joke, whatever, queef joke.
There was a queef joke.
There was a
actually.
queef joke, and it was just like they just use it constantly. And oh, I'm gonna slip and fall in goo. Oh, goo on me. Oh, this. Oh, that. And it's just like,
I did that 3 times.
too much.
Although
Too
I
much.
kind of like that line. I swear the goose is after me.
Yeah, but like you can do it in a way to where it doesn't feel like so like stop, like just you can make it funny without making it stale.
Well, there was a few overall. I think there was a few heavy-handed things. The science and just some of the more lowbrow humor were the 2 big ones that kind of still got to me as just being a little too much.
Yeah,
If they just toned it back a
That's
little
another
bit.
thing. Like I think it's 50-50 because they have a lot of running gags, like the slime thing and like all that.
The
other
slime I
stuff.
think was fun because it literally was just her,
Right.
which was fun.
But it's a running gag. With I feel like half of their running gags work, and then the other half are not so
yeah,
great.
some of them do, some of them.
And then a lot of the comedy was also based on what Aaron and Abby talking. Like that was supposed to be funny. I didn't laugh. I mostly like.
Those whole
Probably rolled my eyes.
awkward like one person
Yeah.
doesn't understand, the other person's trying to make
There
them
were a
understand.
lot. There were a lot of funny moments, or meant to be funny moments in this movie, where I was supposed to laugh, and instead I shook my head or rolled my eyes. Like that's not a good sign. There was a lot of moments though where I chuckled and I laughed with the shit. I forget the names of the characters. Your favorite Ghostbusters?
Holtzman.
Holtzman.
Yeah.
Holtzman and
Crazy
then,
ass
and then Subway. Those 2 characters.
Subway.
Subway. Those
Patty.
fucking Patty. Thank you, Patty.
Her name
Patty
was on
and
that
Holtzman.
chain.
She
Those
had it on her
2,
neck.
pretty much, not always, but pretty much everything that the 2 of them did, not together, like separately, everything that they did made me laugh. With Patty, whenever she went over the top, I didn't laugh. I didn't think it was funny. But
a lot of her like, what the hell are you guys doing? She was the straight man.
Like, and she was
man,
talking. I think the funniest one was she was walking and she found the the mannequin room, and she's just like, oh, that's the stuff.
Room of nightmares.
Room of nightmares.
She's literally the sensible person of the group. Yeah. This is funny.
Those moments, they're really funny. Chris Hemsworth, I like at times, at other times I don't, because I don't like a whole lot of the, oh, he's stupid and that's why he's funny. And it's like, it's okay to do it a couple times, because a lot of the times the fish tank joke and a lot of that stuff. Like the first time he did the it hurts my ears, but he did it like twice or 3 times in a row.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's so loud.
And I'm like,
it's so loud.
I'm just like,
and like his glasses too.
It was like the first time, like it made me like smile, and then like they did it 2 more times right after that. I'm like, oh, why? No.
I still think he's fun.
Like yeah, and I don't know.
It's one of those things. I mean, I think actually going back to the length thing, it's like if they had just trimmed a bit more of the other stuff,
he could have been.
It actually would have been a lot more. Like, and that's.
I mean, I would have been sad. But
The movie's about 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. So if they trimmed about a half hour worth of just like the extra little gags that didn't really work, the other things, and the awkward pauses, they trimmed just a little bit of that, it would have been a much more punchier movie.
It's almost like somebody went back through the script and read it, and they're just like, oh man, I don't know what's wrong with these jokes. They're just not going. It's like, well, just add a couple seconds of silence for people to get the joke or something.
Well, I think even more so.
I don't know if that was the reasoning, but that's what it felt like.
It might also have been more the fact that they didn't want to cut so much movie because they felt that they had so much to go for, and they wanted to add so much. They wanted to make you really care for the characters, but instead of getting quality, they did quantity. So
yeah, maybe.
I mean, they still have some quality, but it's like, I think it's just there was a lot of like things they wanted to keep going, things that you would remember and keep referencing throughout to keep the movie keep going in your head. I think that was their goal. In some cases, it did work. Like, you know, just Holtzman's craziness like was awesome, but like a lot of things it did. So it was the case of like this movie could be trimmed down, a nice like revised director's cut kind of thing where it does get a trimmed down version where it drops to like an hour and a half, hour 40. That would be awesome because that would really. That's I think my only major problem. Look, not my only major problem. I think the overall major problem that has an obvious fix besides having to rewrite the plot.
Right.
It's just if you edited it more, I think the movie could have had a bit more.
I really love that scene where Kristen Wiig goes for the one gun and then the chick.
She's like,
no!
Yeah, no!
Not that one.
See,
like,
that's exactly.
And like that works, but then it's like, oh, we have to let the cat out of the bag. But once you let the cat out of the bag, it's really hard to put the cat back in the cat.
I put cats in the bag all the time. Like, what are you talking about?
Not that it's a bad thing, but like that's actually it's interesting because that's starting to become a cliche.
What?
The oh, you can do any of this. Not that one.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
It's becoming a cliche.
I just loved her reaction though.
But her reaction, I did not expect.
The thing that's great, like Holtzman, I think, is pretty much nothing but tropes, but it's the energy of Kate McKinnon on there. Like, she's never standing still.
She puts so much.
She's constantly like making weird eye. She's constantly like, making weird eye moments. Like when her eyebrows just constantly wiggling all over.
When she touched the one Homeland Security guy.
Yeah, she's just like
just almost out of frame. I'm just like, what
are you doing? She played the perfect. I'm crazy. I know it, and I'm gonna ramp this up. It was so over the top. Like,
she reminded me a little bit of Tiny Tina from Borderlands 2.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
that same kind of energy where it's just like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and it's gonna be so much fun. And like she like doesn't move. She dances. She doesn't like talk. She just goes crazy wide. Every little bit of it.
Oh my god, now I wanted that dance scene to be in that movie more because then she could have done a dance off with all those people.
Oh shit.
My god.
That needs to happen.
Okay, so for clarification of what I just said, there's like a Chris Hemsworth that's like commanding this whole army of people and they do like a dance off while the credits are rolling. But like it's set up to where that looks like it's about to happen in the movie.
Basically, all the police and army go and confront the hotel place where everything's going. Chris Hemsworth comes down and he makes them all do
like the disco pose.
And when I first saw them, I was like, oh god, they're gonna do a freaking ghost dance off. They don't. They just
And
freeze
they
them
don't.
there.
They just stop it.
But
And
during
then they
the
do the
credits,
dance-off during the
they
credits.
actually do the dance-off.
But now I'm
So-
like, they should have danced, and then she could have done like a dance because they have a whole scene where she just dances, and I'm like, that could have been a really nice payoff.
That actually would have been a lot of fun.
Damn, missed opportunity.
Yeah, that dance scene probably should have been in the movie instead of in the credits.
And I docked like 4 points for that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna dock that many
What does that
points.
mean?
Out of a rating, I'm gonna dock 4 points.
uh,
No, I'm kidding. I'm not
What
gonna dock
else for cons? I like most of the references. Not all of them though. I think Bill Murray only needed the one. I think we
Right.
already discussed that.
Well, yeah, that's
Another one was whenever they brought back. Fuck me, I forget the name of the ghost name. The Edie ghost. Slimer. Brought back Slimer. I was okay with it.
Slimer was cool as a reference. He was in there.
They used
probably
way
two
too many
more-
times.
2 or 3 more
right at the
times.
end. I was like, that's too much.
Yeah.
Nope. Oh shit! I almost forgot. When we were talking about the over-explaining thing, I was going to bring this back. How they fix everything at the end of the movie is so. It felt so like Deus Ex Machina for me. It was just like oh, that thing's a nuclear bomb, and I'm like, okay, that's bad. And then they're like, wait, it's a good thing. And then they're like, because the zip zop and the Ziploc bag can. If we shoot the car with the things we're not supposed to shoot it with because that was originally a bad thing, it might just work and it will turn it around
That's
because
kind of a crossing the streams moment.
things will fix themselves.
As much as I'm like, I'm glad they didn't do the
There-
cross the stream
There
thing.
was a bit of explanation. It's a weak one, but there was. Is that it's a portal. We need to reverse the portal. So instead of blowing out, it's sucking back in. So it literally sucked everything back.
Literally, their explanation is just we're gonna put a lot of energy in it and hope it reverses.
But I think that, the way they explained it, they tried to almost over-explain it with more sciencey words. And because of because they tried doing that for the rest of the movie, I didn't listen to them that time because I'm like, oh, it's more shit I don't understand.
Yeah.
But if they wouldn't have done
Said
that,
some shit about
and they would have done,
I
if they would have
could
done
not
some
listen to
some
all of them.
English, that's
Yeah, and it's
They
like
wouldn't do
I'm happy they didn't do the crossing the streams, but they have that similar moment.
Yeah.
Wait, and that's the thing. This is
It's like you almost
like-
have to.
it's a movie of
Yeah,
similar
it's-
moments, but it's different ideas with the.
It's a whole
moments,
different
so
idea.
I'm okay with it.
Same kind of moment, so I'm okay with it too. Generally, I'm happy they didn't
Okay.
cross the streams.
So let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Do you have any final words, pro or con? Let's just go final words section.
Final thoughts, Jake.
Final thoughts.
Just
Final thoughts, and then your rating out of 10.
Overview. Okay. For the movie, I think if you watch it for its own reason, it's a fine movie. But if you start looking at it specifically, there's definitely some plot holes or some things that they're just like, oh, you could have just done that and it would have been way better. And a lot of the jokes, there's a lot of lowbrow jokes. I'm fine with lowbrow jokes, but there are way too many for my taste. And a lot of the jokes that made me laugh were the subtle ones where you have to almost look to find them, and they're there. And I thought that there were too many bringing back old characters, but I ended up liking almost all of them, so I don't have a problem with that. So for a rating out of 10, I would say, and the villain, I didn't like the villain. But, for showing the main characters, it's almost like the villain's just kind of in the background, and it's like, alright, we don't really need to explain him if you're just watching the movie for the comedy. It depends on what you're watching it for. So I would say that I would probably give it maybe a 6 out of 10, probably. I think that's generous for my thoughts on it.
Let's just move along here.
Yeah, we've talked in depth now. Villain was the weakest point for me. I was just like, this guy sucks. I think about half the jokes work, half the jokes don't. I do really like the characters, and I respect the movie for not just doing the first Ghostbusters movie over again with females, and actually doing its own plot. I am going to go with a 7 out of 10.
Ooh, it's increasing. Guess what? It's gonna increase.
Boy.
This is a fun movie. It was enjoyable from start to finish. There was no scenes that I absolutely hated. There were some things I had a problem with, and I could see where they could fix them. So it was one of those you could make this so much better, so much easier. Just do this. God, why do they pay you millions? I can solve all your problems. Okay, no, never mind. Anyways, so
I can solve all your problems and I'll do it for your lunch money.
they have expensive lunches.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so
I'll do it for your lunch money.
fair enough. So I think this hit the right notes. This is a good way to do a reboot and a great way to honor the franchise. Anyone who likes Ghostbusters should at least find something in this movie to enjoy.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't like Ghostbusters and just enjoys fun movies, I think this has a lot of good things to it. You will probably have to shut off your brain and not think too hard in it, but I think the movie tries to make you feel like you're not shutting your brain off completely and gives you a lot of things to go for. So I'm going to give it, honestly, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I'm pushing it a bit high, I admit, but for what they're trying to do and for how much, like, it could have been horrendous, they did
a lot worse.
They did a lot of what they wanted to set out to do, and they did it the way
Especially
they
considering those trailers, it could have been a lot worse.
Well, yeah, like I said, it could have been an absolute bomb. I'm so grateful it didn't. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I've seen it twice already. I probably wouldn't pay to see it a third time, but I would definitely watch it again. So I'm grateful I saw it. Grateful to watch it. 8.5 out of 10. The 0.5 is also
8 out of 5.
8 out of 5.
Perfect
score.
Okay,
God.
so we got 6, 7, 8.5. It was almost a number.
I added 8.5 to
added 8.5 and you made it weird.
Better than 50%. Hey.
All right,
Passing grade.
That is our review of Ghostbusters, the new 2016 film.
This is our big discussion.
Maybe we'll review the original. I don't know.
Actually, that could be good.
That
could be
could be
fun
interesting.
review. Maybe we'll do that.
Maybe we'll think about that.
So, but we don't need to add more to our plates because we have way too many projects.
Right. We have so much
Thank
going on.
you so much for sitting through this movie This is practically a movie's length, I'm sure. So thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, anything you want. Keep in touch with us. We'd love to hear what you liked about this. If you'd like to see more from us, by all means, keep in touch. We'll be doing more things. There's a D&D campaign coming, which should be interesting. We have board games. We have potential of doing some more games overall, as well as retro movie reviews. So, few things out on the line for you to keep going. Solid 9 is chugging along. It's a long.
We're about to be pushed out of the nest.
Oh,
That's what's gonna happen.
that sounds frightening.
Oh yeah.
Well, anyways.
We have wings. We'll fly. Maybe.
I don't actually have wings.
No, if we hook together, we'll be the wings. Connor will be the bird.
Are we just going to be the pterodactyl ghost thing?
It was a gargoyle. There's a gargoyle demon.
It had the same fucking green effect on
Alright,
it.
stop making me...
People who've seen Monsters Unleashed fucking scoot
Don't
you.
reference that movie. I'm done.
Put in the comments how similar
Stop
they
making
look.
me
And
defend the
also
movie.
put in the comments how sexy Chris Hemsworth is because he's amazing.
Where's the freaking record button?
If there's something strange in the neighborhood, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! If there's something weird and it don't look good, who can you call?